Bombers flying over Reich-occupied territories needed to contend with both interceptors and flak. Towards the end of the war, flak was responsible for more bomber losses than fighters. Bombers had to develop various tactics to reduce the flak threat. The intent of this video is to review bomber flak evasion tactics adopted to reduce the flak threat. This is a Channel 6 video that addresses topics related to German flak. The videos are located in the channel's flak playlist. This page from a declassified August 1945 Headquarters AAF intelligence report titled Flak Neutralization outlines steps bombers can take to reduce the flak threat. Item D lists bombers taking evasive action, a change in the formation's course, altitude, or speed. Bomber formations flying straight and level on clear days are easy target for flak gunners, as described on this page from a March 1944 Headquarters Army Air Forces document titled Handbook for Combat Air Intelligence Officers. Bombers need to make the flak gunner's job as difficult as possible. Evasive action against anti-aircraft fire must be planned and implemented by all bombers in the formation. This image shows an integrated air defense system from a March 1945 20th Bomber Command document titled Air Intelligence Digest. A formation of B-29s is tracked by either gun-laying radar and/or optical gun director. The gun director computes a predicted position of the formation and provides the gun batteries firing information, accounting for the correct lead given the projectile's time of flight. The flak projectiles burst in the formation, damaging or shooting down the bombers. If the formations took carefully timed evasive action, the bombers will be here when the projectiles detonate, outside the lethal range of the flak bursts. Flak evasion is defined on this page from a declassified April 1945 21st Bomber Command Air Intelligence Report. Evasion is any maneuver that the formation takes which will lead to a decrease in bomber damage or loss from flak. A German integrated flak battery is shown on this image from a 1945 Headquarters United States Army 9th Air Force document titled Flak Facts. The key pieces of equipment are the small Würzburg radar, director, and flak guns. The radar provides the director the bomber's slant range, azimuth, and elevation. If needed, the director will confirm these radar values by the integrated optical rangefinder mounted on top of the director. If the target cannot be tracked optically, the director will rely solely on radar inputs. The director relays the flak gun's quadrant elevation, azimuth, and fuse time duration such that the bomber's future position and the flak projectile will meet in three-dimensional space at projectile detonation. The 88mm caliber flak projectile's lethal range equates to 4 meters or 13 feet, as shown on this page from a July 1945 20th Air Forces document titled Air Intelligence Report. This image shows a 13-foot radii burst relative to a B-17. A description of the flak targeting process is described on this page. The formation's course, speed, and altitude are fed into the director. These inputs come from optical and/or radar systems. The director solves for a predicted position of the formation. Since the director is crunching a continuous solution, the flak guns are updated continuously. The guns will have been provided data accounting for the lead necessary so the flak gun's projectile and the bomber will meet at fuse detonation. This process is dependent upon the bomber formations maintaining straight and level flight. The guns and directors are synchronized. Deviations have been accounted for. All equipment is calibrated, and equipment is operating correctly by trained crews. Challenges the flak batteries face are listed on this page from a June 1945 SINPAC document titled Flak Intelligence Course for Air Combat Intelligence Officers. Flak projectiles travel up to 6 miles to the target. Projectile time of flight is up to 30 seconds. A formation could cover a distance of around 2.5 miles in 30 seconds. The bomber formation may take evasive action. The projectile's time of flight is from 7 to 30 seconds. The director's time for calculation to the target's future position is around 15 seconds. It will take up to 45 seconds from target pickup to burst. As a rule of thumb, the maximum time between evasive action events should be calculated by the formation's altitude in thousands of feet converted to seconds and at 5 seconds. For a bomber formation traveling at 20,000 feet, the formation should start an evasive action every 25 seconds. This allows a formation to be at least 10 seconds away from its predicted position at flak projectile burst. Weaving the formation will not be sufficient, as the directors can even out these maneuvers, as discussed on this page from a March 1944 Headquarters Army Air Forces document titled Precision Bombing. The formation's lead will initiate the evasive actions, and all other bombers will just maintain their positions within the group. Formation evasive action must be carefully considered after bomb release. The formation's lead plane needs to consider timing the evasive action after all the bombers in the formation have released their bombs. Otherwise, the bombers in the rear of the group may not have had time to release on target in their attempt to maintain formation cohesion. Effective and non-effective evasive maneuver tactics are summarized on this page. A decrease in speed is not recommended, as it keeps the formation in the flak danger zone longer and will not deviate the planes from their predicted position with sufficient distance. An increase in speed likewise will not place a plane at sufficient enough distance from the predicted position. A standard climb of 500 feet per minute will provide a deviation of 2.8 yards per second from the predicted position. A 30-degree dive at a rate of 60 yards per second is an effective evasive maneuver. This evasive maneuver can occur if the formation is at high altitude. A change in course at 1.5 degrees per second is the most effective evasive maneuver. To summarize, the formation's evasive action in order of preference are changes in course, altitude, and speed. There are two exceptions where evasive maneuvers should not be conducted. Number one, during the bomb run. The bombardier will need a steady bomber platform to set up the Norden bomb sight, so no evasive maneuvers are allowed. Number two, flak targeting the formation by barrage fire, as discussed on this page. The flak gunners may resort to barrage fire, as seen in this image. All flak guns fire into a box 2,000 feet cubed. The formations will fly through this box. Evasive action will not be effective when flying through this type of fire. Post-war, German flak officers were asked to rank which evasive maneuvers were most effective in throwing off position predictors, as discussed on this page from a June 1945 United States Air Forces in Europe document titled Meetings of Flak Conference. They listed changes in speed, altitude, and course. This is in opposite order to the guidance our bombers were given. The Germans stated the best anti-flak evasion tactic was for the formations to change their speed. A change in speed for large formations is a difficult maneuver to safely perform in unison. A drop in altitude, preferably with a course change, would be next best, and least effective was a pure change in course while maintaining the same altitude. The Model 40 directors picked up course changes better than altitude changes. Let's look at a clip graphically explaining these tactics.
The gunner is up against his greatest weakness, prediction. His firing data can never be more than the assumed future course of the target. In continuously pointed fire, the gunner must get you in his sights and obtain your altitude. At least 5 seconds consumed here. Then the director must make its calculations and set the guns. Roughly another 5 seconds. Then the shell, climbing at approximately its 1,000 feet per second, chalks up 25 more. Continuing your present flight path for 35 seconds would place you right at the predicted point. But making a change after 25 seconds leaves the flak bursting on a course you're no longer flying. In addition, the gunner's next prediction must be refigured to fit your new course before he can fire again. See from this that if you knew when to make changes and what changes to make, you could continuously defeat the predictions. Well, that's what flak intelligence has figured out. As a rule of thumb on when to make changes, you're given this. Never fly one flight path for a greater number of seconds than you are up thousands of feet. In other words, flying at 30,000 feet, make a change at least every 30 seconds. In planning what kind of changes to make, we must avoid ineffective evasion. Do not fly a sinuous course illustrated here, because such small regular variations can be averaged out. When you consider the overall pattern of an evasive course in the sky, you can see that nervous minor changes are worthless. Instead, compromising between what confuses gunners the most and upsets your formation the least, we plan this sort of evasive action. changes in course of a minimum of 20 degrees, changes in altitude of greater than 500 feet. The two changes made simultaneously whenever your formation permits, and never held longer than a number of seconds which corresponds to your altitude in thousands of feet. You will be told to start this planned evasive action 3 minutes before reaching a defended enemy area. That's because you have no way of knowing when the gunner gets you in his sights. To ensure against flying straight and level long enough for the gunner to get off even one accurate prediction, evasive action is started before you're in range. If for any reason accurately predicted fire is impossible, the enemy can still resort to a third type of fire called barrage. Here the flak is fired into a certain volume of sky. Very roughly predicted, the individual bursts are inaccurate. But with all guns trained on this zone, a dense pattern is formed. To force the aircraft to fly through flak-filled space, the barrage is usually laid in front of the estimated bomb release line. The chances of being hit in a barrage are not as great as in the other two types of fire, since accurate prediction has been sacrificed for volume of fire. Evasive action will not carry the plane out of the barrage or affect its chances of being hit. The sooner the aircraft flies through, the better. Remember, the barrage hangs in one region of sky and is not predicted for any particular aircraft's course. However, evasive action during the approach to the target can upset the enemy's effort to effectively locate his barrage. If the defense knew your bomb run long in advance, the barrage could more effectively be placed in your path. Evasive action will add to his difficulties.
If you've enjoyed this flak evasion maneuver tactics deep dive review, please consider engaging with the video by commenting, liking, and/or subscribing to the channel World War II U.S. Bombers.